Welcome to Wisdom Friday. I'm Sasha Rose. It's Friday, April 25th, and this space is to offer value to you as women who are on a sacred mission, who have vision, who have passion to bring changes and solution at this change of ages, and to give you a taste of the framework that I've developed in the last 12 years, syncing with Venus as a heroine's journey. So, welcome if you know nothing about astrology, if you're an advanced astrologer. The beautiful thing about this process is that once you understand the basic movements of what's happening in the cycle. And some people get that very quickly. Some people need a longer time. But once you understand the mechanics of how the cycle works, you can take that into your own life and you're going to have your own unique insights from that, even at the most simple level. So if you have not yet connected with my free Venus guide, Secrets of Your Venus Guide, you want to do that because you're going to receive some key words that help you to understand your personal Venus. You can look up your personal Venus if you don't know what it is, and then you can contemplate those qualities. Because in this process of transformation from the inside out, that's the heroine's journey, it's really diving into our own inner realms and discovering more of the truth of who we are. These qualities are going to give you major clues about how you best show up in your relationships, how you best show up in your business, which for many of you is your sacred mission, how you can embody these qualities to create more abundance. Venus is about relationships, the ways that we connect, the ways that we give and receive love, but all kinds of love. Romantic love, yes, but also friendship, agape kind of love where you have kinship with other people. It's really Venus to me is pointing to this principle of bonding. And how do we bond? How do we have these bonds of affection with each other? And of course, our first, very first bonds are with our parents. And so we have many imprints and we have a lot of patterns from growing up in a system that doesn't value the human care connection for the most part, unless you grew up in another culture that did. For the most part, the dominant culture on this planet is what I call the dominator culture. And it's not one that values life. It doesn't value mothers. It doesn't value birth. It doesn't value what's natural. So it's very much this harsher, busier, machine like synthetic quality that's come in quite strong for those of us that have been on the planet for a while. We're seeing this amplification of this type of control. And with that type of control in its current manifestation, it's creating a lot of distraction and it's creating a lot of interconnection because we can know what each other is doing at all times. And so there's also blessings in that. There's blessings in this moment we're moving into where the old system's coming apart at the seams, but then there's also this incredible amp of information and connection and feeling like we're always on. And yet in that, we've never been lonelier. We've never been more disconnected, generally speaking. And so Venus is really this planet, this planetary body. To me, she's a certain frequency. All of the planets are frequencies. And she's the frequency of love, the frequency of care. And so when we put her at center of the astrology and when we put our own hearts at center in our lives, because the way that we're working with this cycle is Venus's dance with the sun. And so the sun is the center, the sun is the energy, the sun is that also connected to the heart. So we have these two frequencies, the frequency of the sun, the warmth, the affection, the generosity, the playfulness, the joy, and then in this dance with Venus showing up as this energy of connection. at connection with ourselves, connection with others, connection with nature. And so the two of them very together make a very, very powerful pattern. They make a very powerful pattern in the sky, and they really are in the numeric pattern of that. They're pointing to the codes of life. They're pointing to the golden mean. They're pointing to the way that matter itself is created in the dimensions and in the proportions of it. And so that's all quite interesting to see that, in the Venus cycle, and to recognize that whatever we put at center, whatever we focus on, really has a lot of power. And so that is something that I think, in a very simple way, on Fridays, we can touch into to remind you, to remind me that we want to put this principle. Oh, sorry. We want to put this principle of care and connection at center. This is my daughter speaking of care and connection. Okay, just letting her know, and I will turn that off so it doesn't do that again. Oh, my heart. Okay, so we get distracted. We move out of center. We get pulled. We get all caught up in our minds. And so it's just this continuous practice of returning to our heart, dropping in, dropping down, listening, and connecting with ourselves first. Because as we know, we can't connect truly with anyone else if we're not connected with ourselves in a very deep way. And so this is a heroine's journey, is to go into a process consciously where you said, yes, I am willing to be more intimate with myself. I am willing to go through the lonely. I am willing to discover more of who I am. And this infinite wellspring of inspiration that is available inside my own body when I put my attention on this place we call the heart. And for you, it's a very personal thing. When I say the heart, for me, that is my actual visceral experience, is that it feels like it's, in this region. And I want to honor that the womb is holding the heart. So it's not in any way excluding this beautiful creative portal of our womb. It's just a very different place in our system. And the way that I've experienced it is that the heart really is an integrative space. It includes the womb, it includes the head, and there's a place where everything comes together. And of course, there's spiritual teachings about this if you want to go and explore what other people more famous and more accomplished than myself say about it. But that's been my experience. And so you can adjust it for what your own lived experience is of center, of heart. But usually it's pretty obvious because we feel it. So let's do that now. Let's take a moment and let's make this super easy and super natural, because I find that oftentimes when we go into meditations or when we are invited into this inner world, we kind of do this thing where suddenly we're doing a thing, like, oh, okay, here we go. I'm going in, I mean, you're welcome to do that if you want, but you can just notice, like in classes, there's oftentimes that preparation for it, but it's something that we can access when we're pooping if we want. It's like, it's just always there. It's not really this extra special thing. And so I think there's a naturalness that I love to cultivate in the going in space, where it becomes more accessible, because you're not thinking, oh, now I've got to go do this thing, I've got to meditate. You fortify that place within you, so then it's easier to come back to it when you need it most, when you're maybe spinning out or you need it as a resource. So however you wish to do this, the first thing that I do when I'm intentionally moving into my heart, we can first just take an intentional breath or a conscious breath. just noticing our breath. It doesn't have to be a bigger breath, it doesn't have to be a better breath, but just a breath. And as we're taking that breath, we're inviting our body to slow down, to soften. And as we continue to breathe, now being more aware of that breath, we can allow the breath to help us bring ourselves into our heart. And there's a sensation there. And there's a warmth there oftentimes. There's a sense of openness. So allowing yourself to slow down, to soften, and especially to soften your jaw, and to allow yourself to just dive into that space within, that heart space. And as you're doing that, you can put your hand there if that feels supportive. And to me, like that sound, that movement of is very relevant to this heart place. And in a lot of the mantras that I've done over the years, there's always that sound and it usually comes after you've done some kind of big this and that and singing and chanting and all the things and working the mind. Then it's just and that softens the jaw. So dropping down, dropping in, and allowing yourself to feel what is right here, right now. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. And if you want to quietly or out loud make the sound of or any other sound, but only if that feels good, only if that feels right. So really feeling your sovereignty here, where you are allowing yourself to be guided from within, and you're open to taking suggestions, but you're choosing from what feels good inside of you. And the other move, if you're noticing that you're wanting to go fast or that you're particularly caught in your head or whatever, we're all caught in our heads a lot of the time, is intentionally choosing not to know. Just choosing not to know, choosing to feel right here, right now. And then noticing how that's a movement. It's not just a one-time choice, it's a movement. There's something moving through the deep river of your heart right now. And oftentimes the first feeling is not necessarily ecstasy. We want to go for the ecstasy. Maybe you might feel bored, you might feel numb, you might feel whatever, irritated. You might feel ecstatic, and that's wonderful. So we're not going for any particular thing. There's no goal here. We're embracing whatever is. Oh, there's some beautiful yawning going on. Yes, that's good. So slowing down, choosing not to know, choosing to feel, and allowing that feeling to become more vivid, intensify whatever that is, welcome whatever that is, soften into whatever that is. And it can be helpful to bring into your heart the people that you love, the animals that you love, that you care about. It can be helpful to imagine, flowers blossoming or any of these beautiful ways. But none of that's necessary. You can also just be with whatever's here. And notice, listen, allow, soften, receive. How often in a day do you receive your own heart and what's moving through? Here's another chance. Notice what happens to your breath as you start tapping into this place. Your breath might get a little deeper, fuller, slower, or it may not. And then as you feel into that and make contact with your own heart center, so that's alive for you. Continue to be aware of that, your own heart spark, your own heart glow, your own warmth, and then include the awareness of all these other beautiful women in this space who also have their hearts shining. So here we are, we're making a pattern in the field together. Venus is always about togetherness, but we have to have ourselves first. We need to have that connection with ourselves first for the togetherness to be in balance. And notice how that changes anything, if it does, to become aware of these beautiful women. And I'm looking at some of your faces in the video, and just appreciate the other women across the world. I know we have New Zealand in the house, Africa, I believe, is here. We've got lots of friends from the United States. I don't know where else, but I love that this is one of the blessings of technology, that we can connect in this way. And we're making a pattern together. And notice how that awareness of the other women who all felt the call to take time out of their busy day to show up here for this, that there's a connection, there's a kinship automatically. You were all drawn to something here. You all felt a call to something here. And so if you feel it authentically to appreciate the other women that are here, you can allow that to activate. Morning time in New Zealand. I'm so glad you made it, Shannon. There was another beautiful, wise woman from Greece. I'm not sure, she might have fallen asleep. So we're on all these different schedules. We're on all these different relationships with the light across the world. But here we are together. And we're at an incredibly powerful time in this new Venus and Aries cycle. So however you want to, if you want to transition out of that space, or gently come out of that space, I like to weave back and forth, and again, not make that state like a special thing that something has to happen, to be more of a natural coming in and coming out, and you have your way of doing it. So I'm going to speak into this moment in the cycle, and I'm going to offer my insight of this period of time. Aside from raising my daughter, I've never so diligently showed up for something as I have this syncing with Venus, and watch it evolve over the years and put my attention on it. And so I will share what is moving through at this particular moment, and hopefully give you some inspiration and some tools to work with, because the world is, wow, just getting so uber intense. The astrology has been brutal. There's more coming in with these other players that are not the heart. The power clashes is coming down the pike. And oftentimes there's a lot of tension with that kind of abrupt change, or things going in directions that don't feel good. And so we're going to just hold the possibility that the heart can hold it all. When we don't go out and we don't leave, that beautiful infinite portal of the heart can hold whatever's coming up when we return to it. So I invite you, as I'm speaking, to keep returning to that place in your being, and fortifying that muscle in your being. And if you have any particular questions about the cycle, I probably won't look right away, because I'll be just sharing what's coming through, but then I'll look in and see if there's something that I can share with you. So I have been on this mission to link the Venus cycle, the synodic cycle with the sun, with our heroine's journey of transformation. Over the years, I had studied astrology my whole life. Not my whole life. I started studying astrology when I was 20, 21, but I'd been exposed to it. I grew up in a spiritual community, so it was in the field for sure. And it wasn't until I was 41 that I saw Venus cross the face of the sun, and I learned that there was a cycle. So it wasn't just the static anything that we would see on the 2D chart, but there was a movement. And wow, that really captured my attention. And it really changed the way that I held astrology, and it really changed my life. And I would say that this understanding that there is this powerful, benevolent force of love that is available to tap into anytime, right within our own bodies, has held me through some very difficult initiations in my life. And that gives me great confidence that it can help other women, women of vision, women who are here to be leaders in this change, women who are sensitives, women who are also, because we're sensitive, because we feel and we perceive that there's a bit of rebellion or a sense of being an outlier in the current system, because we're here to create the new system. And whatever we've experienced in our life has brought us our gifts and helped us to see what we have to offer. And we may have already found a way to offer it to the world, to offer our solutions, whether we're doing that as a business or not. There's a way to bring forth those gifts in everything that we're doing in our work in the world, to bring forth that leadership. And some of you may be burgeoning with information, intelligence, solutions that the world is not quite ready for. You may feel ahead of your time and you're not sure where you fit in because the old model is so crusty and dusty and broken and oppressive from your perspective that you're not sure how to bring what you have. And so this is the longing, this is the passion, this is the kind of the quality that helps us to not get distracted. We keep our eye on the ball of our own transformation, of our own gift that we have to bring, and we keep coming back to it. It's through that kind of passion. And so that's what I love, working with women that are entrepreneurial, because they're looking at solutions, they're looking at service. So you might be a service provider, you might be taking some kind of leadership role in whatever work you do. You might be a healer that has, innovative solutions that need to come out. But there's a dance with figuring out how to bring that in the current system and bridge into what's coming. And so there's a lot going on if you have an online business, if you have an online presence, where the space is so full now. It is so noisy and it is so ripe for distraction. And so the way that you have had success, the way you have been able to sell your services and share your services may have really changed in the last few years. This wonderful coach that I've been working with calls it the trust recession, that people have really lost trust because there's been such a kind of shiny way that a lot of people have showed up and said, I can coach you, I can help you, and then they haven't delivered. So there's so many people that have been burned. They've invested because what a thing we had. It's like this new amazing ability to connect across time and space and serve online. And so it accelerated everything. And there was this kind of bubble where there was a lot of people offering coaching, offering healing, offering help, but there wasn't a bottom line integrity. It was kind of like the Wild West of this kind of world. And that is coming to a close, or has come to a close. That has really changed. And so now it's more about building relationship over time. There's less flash, there's less ease in just showing up with something that sounds really sexy and great and selling out. People are needing more time, and they're needing to know someone deeper, to trust them, to say, okay, I believe you. I believe you can help me. And the whole world has become more solution oriented. People are suffering in this transition in all kinds of ways. And so to be able to speak to that and to be able to serve that solution has become more important, especially in the spiritual space. Ah, Julia, yay, we have Mexico in the house. Hi. So lovely to see you. So it's an interesting thing because those qualities require Venus wisdom, we could say, relationship and building relationship over time, and having an integrity because you truly care. You care about the value that you bring, and you want to make sure that you're not a flash in the pan with the people you're serving, but you're serving over time. That's the true leadership. So in a way, we could say it's a good thing. It's making us better, needing to be better at this ability to create relationships, authentic relationships, and show up and share. So the reason I'm telling you all this, other than I find it really interesting to understand, like, how do we create abundance doing what we love, sharing these gifts that we came with at this incredible time. The reason I'm sharing this is that Venus design, starting with your Venus sign, will show you so much about the unique qualities you have. And when you honor those and you don't censor yourself, and you don't go, oh, I shouldn't say that, or oh, I should be like her, that's a very shadow, kind of a shadow Venus quality of that compare and despair. Oh, she's doing it so great. When you have that focus on your own quality and you really cultivate those, and just like knowing what's happening in the energetics and the cycle, so you can move with that, you understand your own qualities and you can cultivate those, and you can sort out and go, oh yeah, that's my mind. I know my mind. I know the qualities of my mind. Oh, there she is. That's my heart. And so it helps you to identify within yourself that space that we're talking about, and to really know it. I call that the inner heroine. And so Venus in her cycle with the sun, not only the sign, but in the complexity of this dance she does with the sun, really illuminates who you are as a heroine. It shows you your human woman, how she loves, how you connect, the strengths of that, the challenges of that. It also shows you your higher self. We could say your deeper self, your more exalted self that you're aspiring to be in this life. There's all kinds of beautiful wisdom in your own design. So I encourage you to start with your sign if you haven't started on the path yet. And at the end, I will share some ways that you could work with me if you're ready for that at this point, to receive my expertise on honing in on those qualities and helping you to cultivate them to have more success in what you're bringing into the world. So there's always the aspects of ourself and understanding ourself, and then there's the energetics of what's happening. So if you know your Venus sign, I want you to just take a moment and I want you to contemplate the qualities of your Venus sign. So I'm a Venus in Scorpio. And so if you know nothing about astrology, you definitely need to get the guide, because I'm going to walk you through it. So even if I know nothing about astrology, I can know that Scorpio is water. And I can think about nature and think about what are the qualities of water. And if I know just a little bit more, I can go, oh, Scorpio's deep water, fixed water. And so that tells me a lot about myself. So if you are able to, I just want you to bring it into the field, this remembrance of that, because oftentimes those things just live in our head. Like, oh yeah, my Venus is that and that, it's over there, and let me go get my chart. If you have to go look it up, you haven't embodied it. So is there anyone in this gathering that has not received that guide? Because I could grab that link for you real fast. Okay, Lisel, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Let me see if I can grab that. And if you know your Venus and you want to share what your Venus sign is and a few of the positive qualities of your Venus. So for Venus in Scorpio, I would say deep, perceptive, passionate would be three qualities just off the top of my head that I know about my feminine nature. So if you know them and you want to share them, it's the sharing is more for you than for anyone else in this realm of Venus. There's always something that happens within us when we share, and of course, not necessary if you don't want to, but I'd love to see that in the chat if you feel up for it. I'm probably not going to go over each one or anything because I can get down rabbit holes, so I got to stay focused. But I'd love for you to see each other's because you will be teaching each other. You have that innate wisdom within your being. And so when I wrote this guide, I tried to write it in a way that it was a heroine's journey. So you could see the movement from Venus in Aries to Venus in Pisces and every stop in between. Because I really want to introduce that principle of the movement so that you're understanding there's a sign that came before and there's a sign that came after, and those inform the meaning of your sign, this quest for meaning. Inner meaning is our heroine's journey. Okay, I think I got the link. Thank you, Anne, for sharing. Okay. And yeah, I can also just, well, anyway, get the guide. You'll love it, I hope. So I put the link in there. Hopefully you can grab that and find it. And but I encourage you to do that after and to stay with if you don't know it yet. So thank you, women, sharing your wisdom. You have a unique connection to those signs and your personal experience of what they mean. So I am going to say here for those that shared, Venus in Cancer, nurturing, mother, care. Beautiful. Venus in Libra, peace, partnership. Yes. Venus in Leo, confident, proud, passionate. Love it. Yes. Okay. Venus in Aquarius, council vibes, liberation, the weirdo from what has been traditional. I love that. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Venus in Aries, initiator, warrior. Thank you, Bopelo. Awesome. Yes. I feel all of these. So good. So you always have those qualities, no matter what's happening with Venus in the sky, you're going to be cultivating your own inner heroine. You're going to be cultivating your own qualities. And then depending what's happening in the sky, even on an elemental level, because Venus moves in the sky, she meets the sun once every 19 months closest to the earth, and that opens our heroine's journey. If you're not familiar with that, we have 19 months to play with this realm of birth, initiation, and rebirth or maturation into service. So this is the three-part play that we're playing with here. And so as she moves about 4 weeks through each sign, then you can have an invitation to someone else's Venus party. You're like, when Venus is in Leo, you might feel a little brighter, a little more extroverted than usual if you're Venus in Cancer. Like you get a little encouragement from that Venus, but you still live in your own Venus design. So right now we are in a Venus in Aries cycle, which means that Venus and the sun met in the sign of Aries on March 22nd, 2025. I'm going to go ahead and just bring this up. If you don't have the map, you will receive that in your when you get the guide. But I just changed this after the cycle started. So if you don't have the new Venus and Aries map, let me know and I'll get that to you. So this is the articulation of the cycle. How exciting is that? And this is why it's so good to have a guide to understand how can I work with this? How can I understand the meaning of what's all packed in here? And how can I bring that into my life? So it's not just something that's mental, but it's something that can be lived. So we can see in this map that the cycle started March 22nd, 2025. Venus met the sun in the sign of Aries. closest to the Earth. Here we are on Earth, 2 degrees of Aries. So that is an imprint that stays for this whole cycle. We can keep referring back to that 2 degrees of Aries. That is the mother energy, the invitation of this entire 19 months. These qualities of Aries, of being fiery, of being bold, of being willing to go first. This is feminine leadership. And so whenever we have Venus and the sign, we're always going to be considering that that sign is being expressed through kindness and care. Whereas when the sun is expressing the sign, it's more just the illumination of the sign. It's like the sun is in Aries, full stop. But with Venus, it's going to be the way that we love, the way that we care is going to take on those qualities, and they're going to emanate through the sign. So what this is called, when Venus and the sun meet, that's the beginning of the Venus cycle. And it's also called a Venus star, or a Venus star point, in the work of Ariel Gutman, who has done a lot of beautiful, beautiful work with the places where Venus and the sun meet. So I work with both the Venus star points and the cycles. This map is holding all of that wisdom together. So this Venus star point, or the beginning of the Venus cycle, is 2 degrees of Aries. And this is a pretty interesting cycle because, and someone was messaging me about this, Anne and I were messaging about this, because we're in an Aries cycle, but currently Venus is not in Aries. And you may have been feeling this. Venus is in Pisces. And Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac, where we're dissolving, where we're connecting with the collective energies. And when we connect with the collective energies with open hearts, we cry. My goodness, the suffering on this planet. Wow. It's that tenderness of what we've all been through to be here. That really is the Piscean nature. It has that quality of compassion. And sometimes, in the expression of everything, there's always a place where that goes into a realm of not being so helpful. Sometimes we've been so compassionate, we've been so understanding with people that didn't deserve that, and then we've gotten taken out because we were too accommodating, too open to someone who did not care for us. So Pisces is not a place of great discernment. It's just that merging into the all and feeling into the all. And there's, right now there is also the planet Saturn, which is one of the social planets, which is a very serious planet. And it can be a call to commit or to prune it off the tree, especially with Venus in our relationship. So there's this tenderness, this feeling realm of emotionality, and sometimes sorrow and loss and overwhelm and wanting to escape is all part of the Pisces qualities here. And that energy is very different than the Aries energy. So we're moving through this Piscean energy until the 30th, when she shifts back into Aries, where she started the cycle. So the reason that she's moving back into Pisces, the sign before Aries, the last sign of the zodiac, is because she did a 43-day retrograde. So if she only meets the sun at 2 degrees of Aries, as soon as she starts moving back, she's back in Pisces at the final degree of Pisces. And in those final degrees of Pisces, we have a very potent relationship to endings and beginnings. And that's called the world creation point, or the world axis point, 29 degrees Pisces into 0 degrees of Aries. And Venus in her cycle has done this 3 times, because she, started in Pisces, moved into Aries, moved back retrograde, and now is moving back for the 3rd time from Pisces to Aries. So we've really been worked in this cycle to remember the sign that came before, which oftentimes we don't think about too much. It's like, oh, full on, it's Aries, let's go. This cycle's like, no. I mean, this is happening because the Aries star point is ending. This is the second to the last star point. So the way that the star points work is they move backward through the zodiac. So it starts at 29 degrees of the sign and it will end at 0 degrees of Aries. That's a whole thing. If your brain's like, what? You can find out more about that later. But so this moving back and forth in this cycle is because we're having a last dance with Aries. And Aries as a sign, just purely as a sign, is connected to Mars and is connected to the warrior and is connected to this yang energy of moving out. So, one of the most beautiful ways I like to think in a simple way about Venus and Mars, feminine and masculine, is that feminine is in everything that happens in our inner world, our sensations, our emotions, our feelings, our connection to our heart within. And then the Mars is the external, moving out. And when those two are in a beautiful relationship, when those two Anne, are you making marks on the page? That's so funny. She's using her Mars. She's like, we've got to rewrite this map. um, that
I'm
is,
so sorry. I don't know why it just went onto the screen like
that
that.
was
I'm so
hilarious. It
sorry.
was perfect. I loved it. You were channeling Mars. Um, that external is Mars. And so we know because we're in a Venus and Aries cycle. And right now I'm really just speaking to this. So your mind might be going all over this map. So stay with me here. I'm talking about the Venus and Aries cycle, the beginning of this cycle. The whole ride all the way until October 23rd of 2026. That's our heroine's journey. We have a co-pilot. We always have a co-pilot that connects with the sign that Venus starts the cycle in. And so Venus starting the cycle in Aries means that Mars is the co-pilot of this cycle. And so what does that mean? That means when we're looking at the sky story, we want to pay extra special attention to Mars, especially his relationship with Venus, when there's those opportunities to come into more harmony. So we know straight up with this cycle that we're living in a dominator world where the energy of Aries has been defined as violence and a lot of violence against women. All of those Roman gods, and most especially Mars and Aries, they were raping and pillaging and doing horrible things, killing each other. And so we're in a time where that era is done. It's done. And we're redreaming into a new culture that is about life and reverence for the mother and the feminine and nature. And so we want to include Mars and this external energy of going forth in that reweaving, in that dreaming. So I really noticed when Mars went into Leo. I cannot even tell you. Sometimes it's like that with astrology. It was like a light switch went on. So Mars moved into the fiery sign of Leo, which is interesting because we're just leaving a Venus and Leo cycle. That was our last cycle. And now Mars is there and he had his own retrograde, which is unusual. Mars has a retrograde every 2 years. Venus has a retrograde every 19 months. It's unusual that those line up at the same time. And they did in this cycle, and he's the co-pilot. So it's really fun when you see these cosmic connections. So we want to kind of notice what's happening with Mars if there's a big thing. And right now there's a big thing that's going to happen with Mars in a couple days. And we want to especially remember to resource into our heart when it's tense, when there's a power struggle, when we want to go hard, but it's forcing, when we're out of harmony. We want to notice that old pattern that lives within us. It's not like the dominator culture is just out there, right? It's inside of us. That's where all of the victory happens, is when we are able to confront that inside of ourselves. Maybe not all of the victory, but certainly that's where the victory starts. And so, how are we able to become a warrior of the heart, a heart warrior, a warrior of love, a warrior of protection? So, we have that strength and that fortification of the Aries, that boldness, that willingness to go first, willingness not to go with the crowd, willingness to be true to who we are. Aries, at its most basic level as a sign, is about our identity. I am. And so we get to really have that fiery energy and the heart energy. And at the beginning of the cycle, Venus is reminding us with that sweetness of Pisces, that softness, that remembrance of the suffering, of all that tenderness, really infusing that within us before it gets full forward, which is going to happen. I think we're all, if you're tuning in, I think you will feel it on the 30th when she shifts into Aries. It's going to feel really different. So this is the map. And where are we on this map? We are here. Yesterday was the second new Venus portal in the cycle. For many of us, it was the first visible new Venus portal. I call these new Venus portals when that's Venus and the moon come together, 27 degrees Pisces. And so there's this opportunity once a month to tune in and tap in. Of course, there's an opportunity every day to get up and see Venus in the pre-dawn sky. But these, I call it a portal because it's a particularly powerful time to remember that this dance in the sky actually opens up something within you, and your own wisdom is more available to you. So please take the time. These are your power dates. Put those on your calendar. And, it's usually a couple of days that you can see Venus and the moon together. And for this portal, Saturn was right there. There's going to be other characters, but I really keep the container of the heroine's journey, and I keep the focus on Venus, not ignoring the other influences, but knowing that Venus is the golden key to the age of Aquarius. If we want to take this golden age, if we want to take this awakening of humanity, of the collective, to our new levels of innovation, new levels of collaboration, new levels of solutions, and technology that's really in harmony with nature and that's really inclusive of everyone in the community and is holding the people that are the most vulnerable in care and looking for ways to work together to awaken our collective genius. We're going to need Venus. We're going to need that ability to connect, to have rapport, to create trust, to bond. Venus is the golden key for this age change. And that's why I keep coming back to that. And she's illuminated by the sun in this cycle. She's just lit up by the sun's energy. So we are here, and it's not too late. You want to get up tomorrow and catch up. If you've never consciously moved through a Venus cycle, you have an incredible opportunity to start and to get up and to, it's early. She was 6, but then I had to get up at 5:30 to catch her the day of the moon meetup. And luckily I had clear skies. You may not have clear skies. But in that getting up, in that honoring, in that seeking, even if you don't see her, suddenly you're participating in this cosmic play. This is the heroine's journey, and she was at her most brilliant here in Pisces. So again, we have that emphasis on remember the kindness. This is going to be a cycle about strength, about boldness, about fierce love. Remember the love part of that's really important for what we're going to accomplish here. So we're here, we're just beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is a very important moment because she's the brightest. So there's a real emphasis on visibility. And there's, for many of us, a lot of stuff comes up around being visible. And like I said, if you have an online business or you're engaged in trying to find the people that need your medicine, your skills, your gifts, it's busy out there. And so there's a lot of vying for visibility. And so how do we show up authentically in the truth of who we are? And how do we get the attention of the people who need us? That is part of this quest. And I will say that something that's been coming to me more and more about this Venus and Aries cycle is how do we get more comfortable with the process of heart-centered selling, because selling is creating an energy exchange for our gifts and what that person needs, bringing them a solution. And for a lot of women, they have a really hard time selling. I have had a lot of difficulty selling. And so this feels like there's some kind of confidence here in what we have to bring, the solutions we can offer, and being able to show up in a way to represent that in order to create the abundance that we need for our lives, because the economy is just going crazy right now. So that could be something for you as a woman in business, or if you are in a job where you need to make sales, or, one of my clients, she's a visionary director of a school, incredible new paradigm school. And so she is not looking at sales, but she needs parents to value what she's bringing more than going, oh, well, I could go to public school. I could take my kid to public school and I wouldn't have to pay. So she needs to be able to show them what she can give their child that the public school never can. And in a way, that's sales. Sales is influence. Sales is anytime we're trying to influence anyone to do something because we feel like it, would be helpful for them. We know that there's something in what we have that can help them to grow, that can help them to have benefit. So if you have a teenager, you've probably had to learn a lot about this because they want to do what they want to do, and you have all your wisdom, and yet, that's an incredible kind of relationship to navigate that. So you have enough trust and you have enough influence that you can guide them, because they don't have to do what they don't want to do at a certain point. So it's that same energetic that we're working with here. So I'm curious how that lands. I'm going to pause out of this map in all its glory. I love the richness of this. And if you have it and you don't know where to start with it, the most important things to know is that we are in the morning star phase, that first 9.5 months between now and January 6th of 2026. So this whole year, we're going to be in morning star. And the morning star phase is about sacred self-centeredness. It's about the inner journey, discovering who we are, just like we did at the beginning with the meditation when I had you drop in and feel yourself. Let's do that again now. Just make it easy. Slowing down, landing in your heart space. Relaxing your jaw. Whew. So that's the morning star vibe. I'm trying to just give you a little taste. And then evening star is more about that. Well, we have to say underworld is about being initiated, being transformed, becoming more mature, becoming more secure in who we are, trusting ourselves more. That's underworld, which is going to happen. We can look at the 6 here. So what I'm doing to know when that happens, I'm going, okay, this is the line of visibility. So she's going to be moving invisible. And so I go down here to look at the 6, morning setting, 11/26/2025. So right around Thanksgiving in the United States. Then the underworld process is a whole other, this is the mystery school here. But then in the part of the evening star where she's visible again, then we're connecting with others in a new way because of our transformation. Okay, super simple. Morning star is about discovering your qualities, the truth of who you are, strengthening those, and increasing your confidence about being a leader in the ways that you're naturally meant to be one. That can look many, many different ways. And the other piece to know here is that these dates, when she meets the moon, are amplified, powerful dates. The moon is that history of our first bonds. The moon is how we were raised, how we got our emotional needs met, or for many of us, not met. And the residual damage from that is our story. And so this is a process of redesigning our own story. We're not ignoring that. We're not ignoring the moon. The moon really has the codes of our inner child. So what we need to feel safe, what we need to feel nourished, we're going to find that in our own personal moon sign. So we're not dismissing that energy. We need to include it. So there's like this inclusion that happens at those portals where it's right there, the conditioned feminine, our history, especially our matrilineal lineage, and the way that we as women in our family have not been honored. It's really in that moon energy and those stories. And they're incredible stories to capture. And then the Venus energy is the evolutionary feminine, totally operating from the present moment, having the confidence to not know, to not prepare, to not know. I mean, not to say we don't need to prepare for things, but there's something about releasing control because we have greater trust of who we are. And so we're more in, I think of it like the Fool card in the tarot, where the Fool is stepping off into the invisible space. And there's this trust. And so that's that muscle. I'm trusting my heart. Like my head says, don't do it, because the head holds all the history. Remember the last time you did that? He's like screaming at you, right? It's that like, but I feel it. My heart feels this. Okay, I'm going to move with that, even though it feels like death. And I think I've had to do that so many times in my life. So I could say that to you and it wouldn't be a theory. I just moved halfway across the states. So I've just been through a very much trusting the mystery kind of experience among other experiences that I've had. So in order to make big changes, that energy of coming into our evolutionary feminine and coming into the now is really important, and not getting caught and limited by the stories, but honoring and knowing that those are going to connect us to our inner child. And okay, what does she need? What does she need? The moon will always tell you what you need. And the moon is often most obvious when no one's looking. That's where our moon stuff comes up often, or with people we know really well. Whereas that rising sign, that way that we're meeting the world, our rising sign is more obvious who we are. So it's all important. It can all be worked with. And I feel there is a great power in holding the heart at center. We could say the feminine at center, and to honor the beauty of the nurturing nature. And also with this Aries cycle, it means having boundaries, knowing what we want, and not dissolving into some kind of codependence or idiot compassion where we're picking up the poisonous snake and trying to kiss it because we love all beings. Like it's not going to work out so well. So it feels something about this Pisces Aries is really bringing this lesson home. And then you can inquire, like, how is that showing up in your life? Have you been feeling particularly emotional or overwhelmed, or like you want to escape, or that it's all too much? Just know that there's dry land ahead on April, or not, yeah, April, April 30th, right before we have Beltane. So in this particular cycle is really everything is amplified because the cycle started on March 22nd in the Northern Hemisphere, where we have the spring equinox. And regardless of what hemisphere you're in, it's the Aries equinox, the start of the zodiac. And so as Venus moves, she's going to be amplifying those movements of the sun, those seasonal movements. So it is quite interesting that she's moving into Aries right before Beltane, which is one of the cross-border fire holidays that very much had to do with fire and burning and the fertility of new life. It's very interesting. So we can pay attention to these kind of synchronicities. And the more that you pay attention and consciously sync with Venus, the more the synchronicities will show up in your own life, because you're working with the codes of harmony and the way that life is actually put together on that level of sacred geometry. So let me read some comments here. And then, oh, good, we have some more signs tuning in. Lacey says Venus and Taurus, her own earthy sign, 12th house, earthy, tactile, peace, beauty, private. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Now we're in the Taurus season, right now, which I didn't say, but that season of Sun and Taurus and that season of Sun and Libra, the Venusian energies are going to be amplified and more available to us, because Venus is that co-pilot. She's the one who's in the field around that, right? So we're having the Sun and Taurus now. And so Taurus is one of the two signs that Venus rules. She rules Taurus and she rules Libra. And we could say that her Taurus manifestation is more morning star. It's more self. It's more like knowing oneself, like it's at such a bodily level, such a sensual level. And then Libra is more that evening star of discovering other and doing the dance with other. So we've got both sides there. Venus in Virgo, servant, organize, beautiful. And I love the word refining. I don't know how that lands for you, Maha. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but that art of refining feels like that is connected to the Virgo sign. There we go. Oh, there we go. Julia has it. Great. Attune with nature, humble, constantly refining. Okay, perfect. When to do escape. Oh, it's been so intense. Okay, so I will say one last sky story thing, and then I'm going to start to wrap it up. We're a little bit. I'm keeping these about an hour, but sometimes I do go over just a little bit. And I just do want to say a heads up. Not to be fearful, not to create extra stress, but we have a very stressful transit that's coming up with Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, the planet that has to do with transformation, in this opposition to Mars, which is still holding those codes of potential violence or overreaction, or those two together are pretty volatile. And so that's exact on the 26th, on Saturday at 6:05 p.m. Pacific. So you can translate for your time. And just to know, that is not a good time for some kind of power struggle, for going against the authorities, for doing something risky physically, like, oh, I'm just going to get up on that ladder and not have anyone spot me and no one's home. Like it's not a great time to take those kind of risks with your body. Mars connects to the body for sure, and to motion and movement. So just take extra care, stay extra cool, I would say. And then we have the new moon that happens on the 27th, and that is in Taurus. And so in the morning star phase, you're going to notice that we always have that new Venus portal before the new moon. So it's like a preparation for the new moon. Whatever comes up, however you tap into your evolutionary feminine, whatever inspirations you have, can really help you navigate the new moon energy. And of course, this new moon is more connected to Venus than usual because of Taurus. It's like you get an opportunity to liberate old stories when you start to sync with Venus. And so when that new moon comes up, which is very much about our values and our possessions and what we have and our resources, and it's the day after this uber intense face off between Mars and Pluto, and it's still rolling. It's not like it's done. They're just past their exactitude. So that tension is past its peak point, but there's something new that's going to be seeded. And so you can bring that watery compassion. You can bring, this is how I'll say it. The new Venus portal helps you to tap into the best expression of whatever sign it's in, this case Pisces, and bring that into the new story, the new chapter with the new moon. Right? So yeah, does that make sense? So it's like you get this little preparation. It's different in evening star, but for our whole morning star journey, you're going to get the new Venus portal, that the moon and Venus are going to be together in a sign still in relationship to the sun, always, because we're looking at the cycle, and still in relationship to the earth. And it's like we get to bring whatever we transmute, whatever we transform by bringing those two energies together with that open heart, letting our heart alchemize whatever it does in that sign into that new moon cycle. I know a lot of you still orient to the moon and the moon cycles. Okay. LaSalle also said, oh, you found yours. Okay, great. Venus and Cancer. Yay. Mothering, nurture, care definitely resonates. Wonderful. Yes, 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 yes. Beautiful. Yeah. Shannon says she already feels like a powerful start to something new, potential for women. Great. Oh, interesting. Shannon says she found out her great grandmother cut her hair to grow it long, thick, and healthy on the crescent moon. She believed that was the full moon. This wisdom was passed down from mothers and aunties. Interesting. Lacey says, I have a burning desire to bring more beauty into my landscape and home. Taurus, 12th house Venus, beautiful. And there's probably a way, you can say if this is true for you or not, that there might be a way that you access the spiritual through the sensual, through your toes in the mud, through getting a massage, because that 12th house is that access to spirit. So that's a fun one. Turning it, Lyselle, you're saying that you're turning inward, gratefully turning inward to your home, family, land, watching as your larger communities coming together. Beautiful. Oh, I love that. Holding the web strong for ourselves and all the children. So I will say, just as a thread here that feels really important, and it came in so strong in the last cycle, I feel like I need to keep mentioning it. That when we say feminine, it's a bit of a different quality than when we say mother. And so there's something about cultivating a mother heart, whether you biologically have children or not, we can all cultivate a mother heart. And so you cancers really have um, the innate wisdom on that, and thinking always of the children, and thinking of the who needs soup and who needs this. And of course that has a shadow side, as I'm sure you know, but you really bring that to the collective. And I just love that. Hold our web strong for ourselves and all the children, because the children and the young people, they really need us, regardless of, you know, even if maybe you don't know children, energetically, they need us to be thinking about them, because wow, what a world that they're coming into with at this moment. So always holding the children in care and really holding them at the center. If we made it our number one goal for a new culture to make sure that all children were taken care of, we would live in paradise. Yeah, so that's something that feels also with this Venus and Aries cycle, because it's the first sign. There's a youthfulness about that Aries energy, and also the wisdom coming from younger people. I think is a big piece here too. And there's some incredible young people bringing through so much wisdom. It's really touching to see. They just come in, come in with their wisdom intact. So I did go out and I made a water essence on the new Venus portal, and you can join me in this if you want. I'm not sure yet. I might just drink this in the next 30 days. Maybe I'll keep a little aside, but it felt really beautiful to infuse the water with the energies of the portal was moving through in my life and my own heart. And so I invite you, if you want to try that with me. And I don't know how many of you have been following the work of Veda Austin. She's been freezing the water and looking at the patterns for years. Really incredible. So the woman I'm living with here on the farm in Arkansas has the slides. And so I'm curious to see what the water shows us, because we're learning more and more the power of water. And I think there's so much untapped water to support us. There's so much potential that we can actually speak with the water and ask for its support in a very unique way. So it feels like it's our own unique medicine for the month. So that inspiration came in, and I added 3 drops of the Venus cycles formula from Desert Alchemy. I think it's just desertalchemy.com if you're wanting to take some kind of essence throughout the cycle. I love her work. She is a very incredible herbalist who has created all kinds of desert remedies, essences, but this one is a Venus cycle formula. And I happen to know that she created it in a Venus and Aries cycle because I asked her in her class. So that can be kind of fun. And, just to play in that realm, what feels good for you? And, what do you want to bring in to support yourself, to find your heart, to remember your heart in this next incredible heroine journey that we're going to all be having together. So those are some thoughts there. And then I did want to say that right now I have a 2 half-day VIP experience with me. If you are a woman in business and you're really wanting to dive deep into your Venus design and how that can support you, and then plan your business for this next year according to the cycle so that you're in the flow, that is what I specialize in. And some of you are just getting to know me. You may not be ready for that kind of deep dive, but I did want to mention it because I do have some slots open now that I've moved and starting to settle into my new space here. And so I'm going to just drop the link for that into the chat. And, if you are really wanting that attention on your deepest soul-led mission and in how you can show up for it, it's really an incredible opportunity to spend 2 half days with me, because we just go into the design. If you don't know your design yet, we will go through the different elements of your design, your Venus design, so you can understand them and start to capture your stories, which is a really important piece of you understanding how does that energy live in you. And then we'll look at, what you're trying to create and what you're launching and what your goals are. And we'll go through the year and we will actually plan out whatever you're wanting to create according to the energies, to have Venus really supporting you from the backside. And not just Venus as, this abstraction in the sky, but really that principle of the feminine power to really bring that more vividly into your life. And oftentimes the way that I work is I just immediately, once I understand a woman's design, I connect with a lot of resources that can support her for whatever her mission is and her cutting edge. So you're invited to book a call and explore that with me if that's something that you're really ready for. And I would say if there's any cycle when it would be a good time to receive some intensive support if you have big goals and you really know that you're meant to show up in leadership. This is a real gift for yourself for this time. So there's that. And I will be creating again another opportunity if you're new and you don't know me that well. And again, that trust is not there yet to go on such a deep dive in that kind of investment. I am putting together something that will be a much shorter time with me, but you can get a taste of what this is, to be able to understand yourself through this lens, and then also connect with what is the optimum timing for you, and that way that this really feels like it's a fertilizer for what it is you're creating. So that is that. And I'm so blessed to have so many of you beautiful heroines joining who have been in the space before. It's such a delight to get to continue this conversation and continue this journey. And if you have questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat now, or you're welcome to put them into the Facebook group. And I'll try to integrate those in for these Wisdom Fridays so that you can have your questions answered and begin to understand the mechanics of it. I feel like there's one more thing that I was going to say, but it's escaping me. So perhaps it's not meant to come through for this time. So I want to just take a moment and just give thanks for each of you for showing up, for creating this web, for bringing all your beautiful Venusian qualities to your world, to this space. I can really feel you. This feels like such an incredible I feel us as these like points of luminescence or something, these different frequencies, and it feels like you are the stewards to bring forth those qualities for your sign. Like we're all meant to bring forth those qualities in our world so that this feminine power can grow, and we help each other to grow it by embodying it ourselves. So, I think I was going to give you a little assignment. That was my idea. If you haven't yet, gone through and read the Venus Guide, and you want to do that for the next Friday, I encourage you to mark your calendar, show up, invite your other visionary women, but to find those qualities that you really connect with, and find 3 gifts, 3 shadows, and to see if you can find some kind of example in your life where you felt like you were really embodying that energy, because this is where it gets real. And we can say, for the example of the Venus in Cancer, that was such a great example of being caring, being nurturing. But then when she talked about the web, creating the web, and then even if there was an example of, oh, and last week we had this potluck and I was the one to bring forth the whatever it was, whatever your story is, or you initiated, Cancer has that initiating energy. You initiated some kind of gathering to create that care, and to, let's make the soup together, or let's do something like that. That would be an example. I mean, I'm just kind of drawing off a very obvious Cancerian theme. So they're going to be nuanced more in your real lives. But those stories are really important, because what you're doing in those moments, and of course they never run out. Like if you did it once, you can do it a million more times, because we've lived a lot of moments. So when you felt that energy, it's like you're feeding her, you're nurturing her, you're remembering her, you're honoring your own self for being that embodiment of your Venus nature in relationship. So that's an invitation if you want to go deeper with it. I find that if we don't want to just stay in the realm of information, we need to reflect and we need to contemplate. And I think that's my superpower, and also something that's I don't know, I'm an incredibly contemplative person, and I just think about, and a lot of the time I think in these terms, and I let it like roll around in my head, like, oh, Venus and Aries, and how is that showing up? So the other piece is just to notice the energies of the Pisces, the water, the dissolution, the compassion, the tenderness, and notice how that's showing up for you. You might not even know why, and then what happens on the 30th. Let me give you an exact date is our last thing here. That's an exact time on the 30th. And just notice, I mean, there's no expectation, but it is very interesting. Sometimes we notice things strongly, sometimes we don't. A lot of it depends on our own chart, but just to notice, do I feel anything shift when we move from that Venus in the sky being in Pisces to Venus in the sky being in Aries? So that's April 30th, 10:15 a.m. Pacific. I'm still talking Pacific time, even though I'm on Central now, so you can convert it for your world. Yeah. All right. Well, I hope that was a value for you. And I welcome, feedback in the group, or if you want to share your insights or share anything in the group, feel free in the Facebook group, Wise Women on a Sacred Mission. Just know that you're welcome to share any of your experiences in there. Thanks for being such wise women. Thanks for just honoring the deeper intelligence that wants to come through, and for saying yes to the heroine journey once again. It's going to be such a beautiful one, and I believe in the goodness that's coming and the goodness that we've been all cultivating, that we want to see more of in the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And okay. Okay, this is a great question. Lacey has a great question. Okay, so I'm going to invite you. Lacey says, I use sidereal, so how can I get a Venus chart with that in mind? This puts my Venus in Gemini. So for this process, and I know that there's a huge resurgence in sidereal astrology, and there's even like a lot of perspective in the field, like it's the real astrology. And just so you know where I'm coming from in this, is that sidereal astrology is amazing. I don't know a lot about it. I haven't studied it, but essentially it is the perspective from the stars. So it's holding the pattern of the stars. That's how it's mapping. And the Western astrology is the perspective from the earth. It's looking at the horizon and looking at what's happening at equinox. And so they both have value, and I'm so not into any kind of competition around them, but I would invite you, because you're in a container here, to use Western astrology. Because then it connects us in what we're doing. That's why I use whole sign, because everyone who has Libra rising can then be, oh, that's your first house, that's your second house. So it's more accessible for a group. And also, this work in particular, we can't forget the earth. It's very, very much connected to nature. It's very, very much connected to our spot on the earth. So it doesn't so much, to me, make sense to use that model. I mean, you're welcome to, of course, go play and find out things. But especially when we're learning something new, what I've found often to be true is that when we mix too many things at the beginning, we miss the richness of the thing that we're learning. So I encourage you to learn this particular system in this way that I've cultivated in the last 12 years, and try it on and see what value it gives you before you start to go in too many directions. But Venus and Gemini might want to do that. So you have your free will. That's my, I'll get off my soapbox. Yeah. An astrologer in your 90s told you that sidereal was predictive of life events and tropical personality. Yeah, that's another great way of saying it. I mean, sidereal is eerily accurate in predicting things, right? It's crazy what can be predicted with sidereal. I'm not so much into prediction. I'm more into the unfolding and the transformation that happens more at the personality level. So we have all these tools. I think they're wonderful. I think these arguments are silly about what's best. They all work. They all work. That's the amazing thing about this universe. Multiple maps working. It's very multidimensional. All right, that's it for now. Lots of love to each of you. Thank you so much for showing up. This was an absolute delight. You made my day. Mwah. Bye.